welcome to Who Does Rolls, Mumbo Jumbo for October. We're breached October. It is the witching month. I love a bit of October because, you know, Halloween and all that. I love a scary movie. So maybe we'll do a Halloween list at some point because I haven't done one of them for a while. But yeah, Halloween, great. Good time. Christmas for psychopaths. Lovely stuff. Other than that, not much else to say, other than where's the fucking year going? Here we are, October. Spiel is kind of happening now, as we speak. So I'll see what comes of that. As I've said before in previous video, I personally have not seen anything that's grabbed my attention at Spiel that's made me go, oh, goody, 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 I need that. And to be fair, as I've said before, last few years worth of real the hot things of kind of... One thing that is possibly on the tip there, actually, what I've seen that's going on at there at the moment is probably the Ticket to Ride, the legacy game of, something, the Rails of the West or something. I'm going to make these fucking titles up just to drive me in round the bend. But yeah, that kind of has my interest. I love a legacy game. Ticket to Ride seems like the obvious candidate for that because, again, like Pandemic, it's a very simple, basic game that could be built upon and tweaked around with. And I like the idea of a legacy version of that. So I'm going to definitely pitch that out to the various games groups. I have a suspicion it's something that Ben might pick up, to be honest with you. Because that's kind of his bag, baby. We'll see. I don't think Jamie is a great fan of Ticket to Ride. But, you know, the legacy thing does appeal to me. I do like a bit of legacy. Speaking of which, we won't speak about it now, but we'll come back to that later. But let's have a think and look and see and do what I've been playing. Played a bumper assortment of stuff, to be honest. Well, we've been playing a lot of little mini games and bits like Scout is proven to be very popular. I've praised and shouted about Scout. It is a cracking little, cheap enough little card game that fills the gap from an end of an evening. Wonderful stuff. Just One's one we played a few bits of as well. Word association type game. It can be fun, actually. I'm not the world's biggest fan of that sort of stuff, but it does amuse me. So yeah, the big stuff we've got our teeth into. So Freelancers is what we played, which is the Plaid Hat Games new Crossroads game. We played a 4-player game of it the other week, mainly to tease. I brought it along. It was a naughty trick, but essentially Ben had brought a numerous amount of spreadsheet games. And I'd brought Freelancers, which as soon as I explained to Bob, it was this RPG light type adventure, evolve your character type game. He was all over that and we played that. So we didn't complete the first mission, but we had a good crack at it and I enjoyed it. I like the aesthetic of it. I like what it's doing. It does work very similar to the Forgotten Waters game. It uses a bit more of the app. That's mainly it. I mean, it's still doing stuff for the gap. It's got a bit of humour. It's all fully narrated. It's really well narrated. Great voice actors on there. And it's this kind of Adventure Time-ish, kind of post-apocalyptic type weird place. Kind of Dungeons and Dragons, but with this post-apocalyptic bit economy thing going on. And it's got some wry humour and some gags, and it's quite amusing. And I liked what I saw of it. We haven't been back to that yet, but it's one I do think we will. Not think we will return to, whether it be on a Friday night. Although there is a development on that. I saw that new Descent Journeys in the Dark, I think the first Descent, the new one's just coming out. It's been really cheap on a few sites. I've seen it like 60 quid, which is a fucking bargain actually for what's in that box. To be fair, I've only ever played it the once when it first came out, when I played it at a games night somewhere, and I was very impressed with the app, how it all worked and how the game implemented it and everything else. Anyway, mentioned this to Robbie the other night as we were going to Bob's and said this would also be probably something really good we could play on a Friday night when Ben's not there as a bit of adventuring, and Robbie bought it. So that's coming. So at somewhere along the line we'll be looking at Descent, Legends of the Dark. I did enjoy it, as I say, when I played it. I'm quite happy to dig into that, to be fair, as a break between Frosthavens anyway, because it's that nice adventure-y thing, but it doesn't require me to GM every fucking thing. So, you know, that's interesting. Anyway, Freelancers, really good. I need to play some more. I think if you're a fan of Forgotten Waters and the Crossroads style game and the aesthetic of this one, because it's different, it's got this kind of playful sort of post-apocalyptic adventure-timey vibe, then from what I've seen and what I've heard, outside of what I've seen, it's a cracker, and I think it's one that I will enjoy more of What else? We've played a few good games of Heat recently. Ben has Heat, the Days of Wonder racing car game thing. Yeah, we played last couple of weeks. We played like one of the big tournaments. We've got one last Grand Prix to do, I think. This last one in the base game. There was an expansion due. We don't quite know what's in that. It basically takes the Flamme Rouge mechanism of certain card play in your hand to control how you drive around the track. It's cool. I enjoy it. I like a racing game. I like the mechanisms of what it's doing. I don't know why, but there's somewhere or another in it. It just falls a little flat for me. I enjoy what I'm doing with it. I don't dislike it. It's entertaining. I don't do particularly well at it. I probably could do better if I tried. I just like racing around fast and blowing stuff up. But yeah, it's doing a lot of cool stuff I like, and it looks gorgeous. It's got Detroit's art over it and design. It looks gorgeous, as I say, on the table. It just ultimately leaves me a bit hollow when I play it. Although, you know, if someone said we're going to play this, I wouldn't say no. It just, ultimately, I'm left a bit, with it. What else have we been playing? Oh, Alien Frontiers. So we dug that up. I dug out a couple of older games the other week to play some with the Sunday crowd. Alien Frontiers is one I don't think we'd ever played on the Sunday, and I hadn't played it for a while. It is currently been reprinted in the big box edition for an astronomical amount of fucking money, if I'll be honest with you. But mine's an older version of the Game of Salute. We won't mention Game of Salute really because but yeah, cracking old version of that. It's fully compatible with the other stuff. I think I've got the Frontiers expansion in there as well. What Factions expansion, but we played base game. It's a dice placement game. So what is it? Yeah, it's a sci-fi themed. It's one of the first dice placement games that ever came out. I think it was designed by Troy Needleman, I want to say. But yeah, one of the early dice placement games. And it's a cracker, actually, of it. I've forgotten quite how vicious it is. It's very merciless. There's a lot of take that going on in that game, which kind of appeals nicely to our Sunday night crowd. Essentially, the idea is there's a map on the board, a planet you're trying to colonize. You're placing your dice, which the numbers on them, where they're placed, and the amounts of them placed down will have effects as to what you can do. Essentially, you're looking to build colonies. As you put colonies on the planet, it gives you special abilities if you are the main power in that zone. So it's a lot of this kind of placing to try and take power away from others. A lot of the card play in the game allows you to fuck with what other people are doing. And you're essentially racing to get the points. And it's fast. It moves relatively quickly. I mean, it was a teaching game, but once we got moving, it was moving quite quickly. And I think it's one we could nip through probably an hour and maybe in a little bit of change. And I think I will try and get it back to the table again. I think everyone enjoyed it. It was a learning game, but it was a cracking game, actually. And I enjoyed a lot of what we did. And I think I'd throw in the Factions expansion next, which gives you asynchronous powers, which is a nice little touch. Alien Frontiers, I would recommend it. It is a good game. When I did look, because I knew Tony might be teased by it, it's not easy to get hold of reasonably. Mainly there's a lot of these big box versions of it, and they're fucking expensive. If you can get it cheap enough, maybe an older Game Salute copy or something else, hunt one of those down. Because it's a good game. It's a solid game, dice placing game, a real bit of take that in it, vicious sort of play, and it's one I think I will get back to the table soon because I enjoyed it. So Alien Frontiers, lovely. Another oldie and a goldie we played was actually Arctic Scavengers, which is one I always loved. It's a deck building game, and it's one that came out around about the same time as Dominion and was kind of overshadowed by Dominion's success, which is a shame because Arctic Scavengers, I feel, is the better game. It's thematically great. The idea is it's another post-apocalyptic game, but this time in an Arctic tundra. And you have a really good mechanism of you digging through this junk pile, which contains literally junk cards, but also different weapons and equipment and stuff that you can attach to your guys in the game. So it's a very thematic thing. You're digging in the ice to find stuff. I like that. It's a mechanism and it's thematic. You've all got your own little tribes of gangs you're doing your stuff with. Another thing it does as a hybrid is you have this deck builder mechanism. You have the digging in the ice, and then at the end of every round, there is a fight. Basically, anything you've left in your hand, if it's got fight abilities on it, it will be played out, and you fight amongst yourselves. And the winner of that will take a really nice trophy potentially off the top of a deck that is kind of counting down the rounds of the game until it's gone. So you've got this really cool game of this deck builder. It's very thematic if you're building your tribe and getting stuff and finding resources in there. And then this fight over these resources later on, which can be very important and can maybe even tilt the game of your balance. And I like that. I like the poker and the bluffing of that moment where you can take 3 or 4 cards into that fight. No one knows what you're taking in. It could be junk. That's all cool. The base game came with an expansion, the buildings expansion and other bits, which we played with. And the buildings is a simple sort of process of you can build other buildings and they have a timer countdown on them by cards placed on them, before they come in, and they give you buffs through in the game. There's a bunch of other stuff came up in the Recon expansion, which I've owned and never actually used. So what is part of this is digging this up is like, great, now I want to actually dig into the expansions and play that, because it's a thoroughly fucking great deck builder. I love deck builders. This one is real refined down, smooth, bang, it's all deck builder, but it's very thematic. Highly recommended. Hunt it down. You can still get it, and it's not that expensive. And if you are a fan of deck building games, it is one I recommend. Is Arctic Scavengers, an old and a goldie. You should have that in your collection. Right, let's do some news, I feel. Here is the news. Right, well, let's do some news. Dragon Meat have announced so Dragon Meat, the RPG, is mostly an RPG-focused convention that takes place every December in London. I've been a few times. I like it. It's a smaller convention, though. It's grown over the last few years, and it has definitely a little bit more of a board game feel to it, though it's still predominantly RPG. Hasn't been by. By last time I went, I think was just before pre-COVID times. Good grief. So they've announced this year they're doing an award. This is the Ian Livingstone Award for Innovation in Games. So one originally suspect it will be a little bit RPG related. There is voting open for it. Personally, my pick for that would be Rob Daviau with the legacy mechanism. I mentioned at the top of the video about Rails to the West, that Ticket to Ride legacy game. We've had a lot of innovations in board games in the last couple of decades, but I think legacy is the ones that really kind of stamped its foot down and has fundamentally changed how some board games can be thought about and played. Without that original Risk Legacy, which was astounding and still is a cracking fucking game. Pandemic Legacy, we've had a bunch of them. They were great. I mean, I enjoyed Clank. We've got the Gloomhavens and the Frosthavens of the realm that use some of that legacy mechanism. That idea of change, that permanence in games that Daviau presented and kind of soldiered through with, despite the naysayers at the time. What a genius and what a great idea. I know people bang up against this, the whole object of ripping up stuff and destroying it, but I know we've had safe legacy games subsequently. The Stonemaier games Jeremy Stonemaier gave us Charterstone, which was a resettable legacy experience. We've had other stuff come out like it. I'm a fan of the permanence games. I love the games that you make a change and you've made those decisions and it's permanent, and I love how they can play out. We did break Pandemic Legacy 2 by doing too much change. We're midway through a play of Legacy 0, which I was really enjoying, actually, the Cold War film, what that was doing. Rails to the West is really interesting to me. I do love the legacy mechanisms. I'd say for me personally, out of all what we've seen in the last few years, that still stands as a stunning sort of design element, a thing, a change. And I think that would be a well-rewarded thumbs up from me. So I might go and vote. How about you? What is yours thing? Other bit of news, big news, breaking news and all that. Evil Genius Games are suing Netflix over a Rebel Moon RPG project they were working on. Rebel Moon is the new Zack Snyder essential Star Wars movie coming out at the end of the year on Netflix. Big cast, looks really cool. I really like the look of it. Evil Genius, I'm not sure what they've done. I know the name rings a bell and I haven't bothered to do anymore, but essentially this is kind of very much a David and Goliath situation, because Netflix has pretty much infinite funds, millions. There's not much to go on at the moment. I haven't heard much since, but the gist is they are saying that Netflix has terminated the contract they had, so they can't release the RPG now due to them when they were at Gamma showing images from the game. which Netflix says has breached their contract, even though Netflix has signed off on those images that were shown at the show and was at its show themselves helping present. So it's a weird one. If that, whether all parties are telling all at the moment, I don't know. But just based on that, that's peculiar. Apparently the game is done, although it had a very quick turnaround. I think at the start of the year they actually started developing it. But apparently it's done, ready to go. But yeah, so we don't know. I mean, where this decision comes from, so I don't know. Who knows? Why would they pull the plug? Is it something that Snyder himself has pulled the plug, looked at and gone, it's not what he wants, or whatever? And they've done a lot of lore in the game and other stuff. Who knows? We don't know. But that is going to be an interesting fight, I guess, to play out. Although I feel that they are a little bit outgunned in this one. But fair dues to them. If they have been wronged and they have not been paid for the work they've done, then hey, yeah, you know what? Sick it to the man. Even if the man is a multi-billionaire, is probably going to bury you alive. But good luck anyway with that. I think they've got a GoFundMe running. So that's it. Then we kind of move on to a crowdfunding roundup, which is bizarre for me because I'm not the world's biggest crowdfunding fan of late. I can't really suggest people do it because I'm not doing a lot, if any of it at all, and haven't for about a year or so. However, this month is going to test me to the limits of my endurance. So first up, we've got Smoke and Dagger have announced a new expansion for the Night Cage called the Shrieking Hollow. Night Cage was a real great tile placement game with this theme of you as lost souls kind of going in this labyrinth in the dark with only your torchlight showing the bits of corridor you can see. Really cool mechanisms and idea behind it. I liked it. Kind of a bit of existential dread in that game. A bit clunky to remember the rules. Once you're playing it, it's really good fun, but it's kind of this puzzle you've got to sort out amongst yourselves, and it's good fun. Highly recommended. I think they're doing a second print when they do this because I don't think it's that easy to get a hold of at the moment. If you can, I really enjoyed what it's doing, especially with the Halloween months coming upon us. That's kind of seems a good Halloween game to play. And I'm vaguely interested in the expansion. We shall see. The big one I've seen is Deep Rock Galactic. There was now another Kickstarter running for 2 expansions for the Deep Rock Galactic game. I've never played it. I heard very good things about it. However, and looking at this and playing, I've played a lot of the video game lately, and it looks like one of these expansions combined with the base game kind of give you the full Deep Rock experience. Great. Number one, I have issue with that. It's going to cost you about 200 quid. And to be fair, the project's going very well at the moment. Ultimately, I looked at it, I thought, that looks cool. I'm really enjoying Deep Rock. I would play that. However, I don't want to spend £200 for that experience when I can play it now on my PC for free. And ultimately, we all know it's going to look good, and it may even play really good on the table, but it's going to take all night to do. It's costing £200. You're never going to play all that stuff. It's loads of extra bits. Unless it's your only game, you're just not going to play enough of it. And I've already sunk a good few hours into the video game, which I enjoy. So ultimately, unless I had the disposable income spare and didn't have to think about it, then I might go for it. But otherwise, not for me. But yeah, it looks cool. Has anyone played it? Anyone know about it? I know they're supposed to be bringing out a more retail-friendly version of standees, so I'll wait and see. If that comes out at a reasonable price, I might take a punt. Then there is we covered Smoke and Daggers thing. Rogue Angels is on Kickstarter. Legacy of the Burning Suns. It's coming from Sun Tzu Games. They originally did a Kickstarter for this back in September 22, but it was cancelled to rejig, and they've done a big rejig on it. It looks essentially like Mass Effect, the board game. It really does look like Mass Effect, the board game. It's still standees. It looks a monster. It looks like we are kind of probably bordering on Gloomhaven-ish style of size of box. There's a lot of stuff in this thing. Lots of Mass Effect-y type inter-character relationships and all this kind of cool stuff. Bind the books and books and books of the campaign. You could play this big, massive, overarching campaign over it. It looks great. It isn't actually, with what you're getting, massively horrific. I mean, it's still just under 100 quid, which is expensive. And I've long since said someone should do a Mass Effect board game. This looks like a Mass Effect board game. So it is very much testing me at the moment. I don't think I need it just now. That's the thing. We're still midway through Frosthaven. I've got multiple amount of games to play. When would this get played? How long would it take to get played? But it does look fucking cool. If I see a group buy and it is reasonable and affordable, I may be tempted. But I need to look at the project more, because I've literally glanced at it and gone, shit, that looks like Mass Effect the board game, and that was kind of as far as I got. So yeah, interested certainly, but other than that, the last other thing is Thunder Road Vendetta has just gone on Kickstarter with an expansion. I didn't look any more than that, but that's out. Thunder Road, I really enjoyed. You can get the Chrome edition in this Kickstarter, which is all the good stuff in it. Tony has that. We've played a bunch of it. It's very light. It's very stupid. It's amazingly good fun if you're a fan of dice rolling chuckers, post-apocalyptic Mad Maxi type stuff, and you don't mind if just utter fucking carnage occurs on the board in front of you. Then yeah, if you're a fan of all of that, it is a rollicking bit of fun. Is it worth the money? It's expensive, but you get a lot of good stuff in that box, and you will play it all. I mean, we've pretty much played all of it that Tony had, other than I think there's a couple of bits that changed how you played the game. Like if you really didn't want any fun in your game, you could add something in. But other than that, I think we played pretty much all the expansion content for it all in. It's very easy once you know what to do to use all that, and it's refreshing. Here's a big box fucking Kickstarter where you're using all of it and playing it, and it's fun and it's not too much. Great organised in the box, really good fun. If Tony didn't have it and I played it, I would definitely be tempted. It is one I'd quite like in my collection. Just at the moment, oof. It's a little rich, and I no doubt he'd probably pick up the expansion, so I'll get to see it anyway. So there you go. There's a crowdfunding roundup. Jesus Christ. Yeah, watch yourselves out there, people. People are after your money. Right, well, that's that then. So the wrap up, what else I've been up to be honest, not a lot, although I have been digging into the Judge Dredd, the complete case files of Judge Dredd. I've owned some of these for a while, and I've just recently dived back into Case Files 4 is a really good jumping off point, I feel, because it's when Dredd kind of hits his stride. This has got the Judge Child quest in it. It leads on into the Apocalypse War, which is astounding, which I think is in the next volume. So both of those are well worth having and owning, and if you're a fan of that sort of stuff. And it's great. I mean, this is the era that I joined Dredd. I remember picking up the issues of 2000 AD, the Judge Child saga, the very first ones, at a school fete at the age of probably 8 or 9, and whenever that was, early 80s. And just seeing the wonderful Ron Smith and Brian Bolland art, and Cam Kennedy and Mike McCann. I mean, all of their art. This period of time with 2000 AD, early 80s, this whole period of the next 4 to 5 years has got the cream of artists and writing talent in there. John Wagner, Alan Grant, Pat Mills, Alan Moore. There's just all the guys that basically went on. Grant Morrison, coming a bit later on, Garth Ennis. Kind of move on to revolution the American comic thing with their art and writing, and the artist in this is exemplary. And considering they're churning this stuff out weekly under deranged conditions, and it's insane to think. And looking at it again with fresh eyes, yes, some of it hasn't aged so well, but on the whole, it's stonking stuff. The Judge Child quest, bit kind of all over the place of what it is, and it's randomly the one and only time I can think of a quest that had Dredd going off into outer space, which I don't think they ever really did much of since. They may have done, but not as far as I can tell. He's been very much earthbound since then. But these are really good value. I think you can pick them up on the dreaded Amazon for about 13 quid for some of these. That's a big old volume of stuff and some cracking writing and art. Some of the art is astounding in this stuff. And really, these volumes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, anywhere there, that run is like the golden age of Dredd. Love me some Dredd. This is great as just me going back to my childhood and just loving all the art and writing in there. And it's good rollicking stuff. And some of it you question, I was a child reading this, and actually, was that appropriate? Hey, the Angel Gang, though. Fucking love the Angel Gang. Really good stuff. Just cracking. Yes, if you've never experienced that, it is of a certain age, but it's good, solid stuff. Read that for some bloody good Judge Dredd fun and games. Sadly, we've only had one good Dredd movie. I lament the starring one, though. It looked gorgeous. It looked the part. I may have to watch it again just because it aesthetically looked gorgeous. It's just... could have been. And the other Dredd movie I think is fantastic and also captures a lot of it as well, but it's worth a watch. But that's kind of what I've been doing, really. In fact, that is all I've been doing. So that'll be it. I don't know if it's out yet, but if it hasn't been out, maybe it just be dropping is the board game movies list that I did. Hope you enjoyed that. There is a couple of other bits circulating around I need to edit and get out as well. At some point I'll do that. But for the time being, look after yourselves. And I will see you soon. Adios and goodbye.